This is LBC, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. Nick Abbot on LBC.
Me love you long time.
HSBC is considering upping sticks and moving to somewhere boring just because they are being asked to, with us poor dopes, some spare change, please. I am stunned. And this is all I'm hearing from them. Blaming us for their problems. That has to be the most staggering and awful banking story of the week, right? No, it gets worse than that. Germany's biggest bank has been forced to fire 7 senior employees and pay a fine of £1.7 billion. And here comes the crucial bit, because this almost never happens, and admit criminal guilt in one of the most severe punishment for interest rate benchmark manipulations in history. No! Exactly. They almost always get away with never admitting guilt. Oh, we'll pay you £350 million, or £750 million, or £1.5 billion, or £2 billion in a fine, but we won't say that we did anything wrong. It's like giving the government a tip to look the other way. Amazing. 4 regulators in the... And by the way, it is Germany's biggest bank, but guess where all this took place? Just have a wild stab in the dark, people. 4 regulators in the UK and the US. Not so much the UK, mostly the US, who take this stuff much more seriously than we do. Over here it's a light slap on the wrist. Over there it's the full 9 tails. 4 regulators in the UK and the US hit Deutsche Bank with unprecedented fines and other penalties on Thursday, detailing how traders in London, and to a lesser extent New York and Tokyo and Frankfurt, manipulated LIBOR. Well, the clue is in the name. Liar! LIBOR. The LIBOR rigging scandal, which has seen several banks pay fines of hundreds of millions of pounds and multiple individuals charged with criminal fraud. Well, let's just take a quick poll. Anybody gone to jail yet?
No.
Deutsche Bank's employees pleaded with individuals at Barclays and Citibank and UBS and others to artificially move the benchmarks, which are used to price trillions of dollars worth of financial products around the world, including mortgages and other loans between 2005 and 2010. Not for a short period of time. They were at it for years, and nobody did anything. Nobody did anything. And was there... I mean, can you think of a single bank that wasn't guilty of doing this kind of thing? One manager imploring a Barclays trader to drive the benchmark down wrote, I am begging you, don't forget me, please. Which is the benefit of having an electronic typewriter, because you just hit the S button and then it just gives a whole line of S's. Please, he says, I'm on my knees. Please drive the benchmark down. Because if they're rigging a market worth trillions of dollars, the benchmark only has to move fractions of a point, and everybody wins, except us. A Merrill Lynch banker talked about the LIBOR rate, told a senior employee, people just randomly make these numbers up. That's what he said. This is the rate that determines how much you pay on your mortgage. It's not some vague thing that has absolutely nothing to do with you. It directly affects your life. You know, you ain't got no money. Yeah, well, here's one of the reasons why. The Financial Conduct Authority, which is comical in and of itself. The Financial Conduct Authority said the Deutsche Bank employees deliberately misled the UK watchdog, falsely claiming that the German Financial Authority had blocked the bank from disclosing information and accidentally destroying hundreds of tapes of phone calls. Yeah, whoops. They accidentally destroyed hundreds of tapes of phone calls. They did that by accident. It was a mistake. It was an honest mistake. Hey, I managed to insert the word honest into a story about bankers. I am stunned. The FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, and 3 American regulators imposed fines worth a combined $2.52 billion. A fine of $2.52 billion. That's 2, and then a 5 and a 2, and more zeros than you've ever seen in your life, all grouped into the one place. That is significantly more than the previous record of $1.5 billion handed to UBS in 2012. Did anybody from UBS go to jail?
No.
Just checking. And you know that if they got fined $2.5 billion, they made more than that by undertaking these shenanigans. In the banking racket, it's always worth having a go, because the absolute maximum that you will be fined or punished, more accurately, the absolute maximum that you'll be punished is to pay some of the money that you defrauded back, and you won't go to jail. In America, you might get fired. In this country, you'll get elevated to the House of Lords. The FCA and 3 American regulators fined him $2.5 billion. The total sum was driven up due to the involvement of the American regulator of the Department of Financial Services, which alone accounted for $600 million of the fine. How is it that an organisation can be fined $2.5 billion and yet no one goes to jail? And yet it continues in business? You'd think that the government of any decent country would go around to its offices and close it down. Lock the doors, everybody out. The regulator is also forcing Deutsche Bank to fire 7 unnamed employees. Unnamed. We don't get to know their names. We don't get to know their names and tell them exactly what we think. No! Unnamed. Who played a role in this misconduct. The unnamed employees will be fired. I'm sure that they'll spend the rest of their life just counting all the money that they've made. 6 of these, a managing director, 4 directors and a vice president, are based in, guess where? The centre of the shenanigans operations seems to be right here, London. Once again, the City of London right in the thick of it. The American Department of Justice compelled a UK subsidiary of Deutsche Bank to plead guilty to wire fraud, one of only a handful of corporate criminal pleas related to libel rigging, and the first bank to plead guilty in the UK. Oh, they've all been fined, all right, but none of them said we're guilty. They said, well, let us off with a small slap on the wrist, a nod and a wink, and we'll just carry on regardless. And they're all in it together. The American Department of Justice compelled the UK subsidiary of Deutsche Bank to plead guilty. It's the first one that actually did. All of the others have paid a massive fine, but have accepted no wrongdoing on their part. Which is like I said, it's like slipping the government some cash to look the other way. Shh. And that's, by the way, exactly how the law will treat you. If you are guilty of a massive fraud where you have stolen people's money, they will ask you to pay some of it back, and then you will not have to admit that you did anything wrong. That is how the law will treat you. No, it won't treat you like that. You will go to jail. Because you do not have the get-out-of-jail-free card that comes as standard for people who work in the banking racket. And it looks like money, because money is accepted everywhere. Here's extracts of conversations published by the regulators showing how the bank derivatives traders pleaded with individuals responsible for setting the benchmarks to make submissions that would benefit them, rather than, as intended, represent market conditions. So they set this stuff on a daily basis, and if you know ahead of time what it's going to be, then you'll be able to put bet. I've got no idea what I'm talking about now, but I'm in a great company because most people who run banks don't have any idea what any of this means either, or at least they profess that they don't. People who run banks, and, you know, the people who get the big money, the people who have giant black limousines in lines waiting for them outside their buildings. Those people who actually run the bank have, or profess that they have no idea what goes on in the offices that they sit atop. Extracts of conversations include, can we have a high 6-month LIBOR today, please, geezer? One trader emailed. And the response was, sure, dude, where would you like it, mate? Now, when you think about this sort of stuff, you think that these people are geniuses and they're on a higher intellectual plane than us, but they're not. They're just chancers who got lucky. On another occasion, one desk head told employees to push for 60, followed by another saying, or even 58 if you can, coffee on me. Coffee on me. Everybody's just made £100 million, coffee on me. One manager employing a Barclays trader to lower his submission for a Euribor, the euro equivalent of LIBOR, wrote, I'm begging you, please, I'm on my knees. On a separate occasion, after the trader had convinced others to lower the submission, the manager wrote, I love you. I love you.
Disgusting.
Deutsche Bank, the 8th financial institution to be fined by the FCA, following Barclays, UBS, the Royal Bank of Scotland, ICAP, Rabobank, RP Martin and Lloyds. But Thursday's fine is by some distance the biggest. The watchdog said that Deutsche Bank had failed to spot the misconduct because it had, quotes, inadequate systems and controls, but did not make efforts to fix this even when being told of the risks. And if you have an organisation and somebody underneath you, with your connivance, is guilty of fraud, you will not be able to say, oh, well, that's because we had inadequate controls and checks. No, you will just go straight to jail. The watchdog also said, made the, Deutsche Bank also made the FCA's investigation more difficult by mistakenly destroying 482 tapes of phone calls, despite being told that they needed to be preserved, and falsely claiming that Germany's regulator had prevented information from being shared. See, the Financial Conduct Authority said, can we see some of this incriminating information? And the bank said, oh, no, we're not allowed to, because, there's a competing regulator who says that we can't do that. But they weren't telling the truth about that. Liar! Deutsche Bank said that no member of the no member of the management board was found to have been aware of misconduct, which rather suggests two things. One or the other. Either they knew, but no one can prove it, or they didn't know, which means they aren't very good at their jobs, doesn't it? And the problem, as always, with the banking racket is, it all comes down to one thing: bonuses. These aren't any different to anybody else, these people. They're just people, that's all. You dangle millions of pounds in front of people and they'll do anything they can to get it. That was the problem before the financial crash, that we dopes who work and pay taxes got the bank racketeers out of, and it's happening right now. Nothing's changed. So the behaviour is the same, because they're all charging ahead for bonuses. So the next financial crash should be along any day now. You should start saving up to bail them out again, because next time it might not be so easy. 0345 6060 973, Nick Abbot, LBC.